Pentagon's briefing now, and the very first question was about this drone activity. Let's listen here.
Ones that are flying over military bases at this point, have there been any possibilities of collecting what sort of information these drones are doing or anything like that?
Yeah, again, just to kind of put this into context, and I know that our colleagues at the White House, FAA, DHS, FBI have all made this point. So over 1 million drones registered in the United States, and on any given day, approximately 8,500 drones are in flight. And so the vast majority of these drones are going to probably be recreational or hobbyist. They're going to be commercial drones, used in things like architecture, engineering, farming, or they could be used for law enforcement. Is it possible that some of those drones could be up to malign activity? It's entirely possible, but the vast majority, that is not the case. In the case of drones flying near or over U.S. military installations, that in and of itself, just given the volume of drone flights we see on a given day, is not something that's new. We take all of those seriously. We will typically, when we detect them, attempt to classify them and take appropriate measures. Is it possible that some of those are surveilling? Absolutely. But can you make that assumption in every case? Not necessarily. So in each case, commanders have the authority, installation commanders and authorities have the authority to respond appropriately, and will continue to do that.
Drones, drones, drones. Flying all over America. More on that in a moment. But first, welcome to the Douglas Ducote podcast. You had many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me. And for that, I am forever grateful. I appreciate it very, very much. If you haven't already done so, wherever you're watching me tonight on YouTube or Rumble or X or LinkedIn, please like and subscribe to the show. Hit the subscription button as well as the little bell so you'll be notified, supposedly, when I have a video up. So let's get right into talking about these drones, shall we? I recently posted several videos about these drones and have talked about them extensively right here on this show, suggesting that it is highly possible. I didn't accuse anyone of anything, but it is highly possible that some of these drones could be the work of China spying on us. I also said it could be Russia. I also said it could be Iran. Just as China did with the spy balloon that Biden and Harris allowed to fly all the way across our country. Then I uploaded my videos on my social media platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and TikTok. Well, one of those platforms is owned by China. That would be TikTok. And we have been told that China is using TikTok to spy on Americans and that they control what is allowed to be said on the platform. And anything negative about China would not be allowed. And anything negative about America would be allowed. So I deleted my TikTok profile a while back, believing that if China is controlling the narrative on what is allowed on the platform for their communist ideology, then I don't want to be a part of that spy network. But then the same people that told us this, the Biden-Harris administration, then started a TikTok account for Joe Biden and the administration, which led me to think that if we are to believe that they are spying on us, that maybe I shouldn't be using TikTok. Why in the hell, then, is the White House using TikTok platform that is so bad for us? Hell, even the Biden-Harris FBI director says that China is the biggest counterintelligence threat that we face in America. Yet, Biden and Harris put up a TikTok account. Let's hear what Director Wray actually said.
face as a country,
Right.
and the sheer number of what we would refer to as non-traditional collectors working on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party is something that is a massive resource challenge for the FBI.
That was
That entire clip did not play like it was supposed to, but basically he said that China is the biggest counterintelligence threat that we face. You can look that up on YouTube or Rumble or X. It's all over social media. And that was just today. Director Wray has said many, many times that what keeps him up at night are two things: the threat that China is trying to spy on us, as well as our border with known terrorists coming across. So, after the Biden-Harris administration telling us not to be on TikTok, then went on TikTok, I decided maybe it's bullshit. And I went on TikTok again and started another channel. But my recent video suggesting that China might be responsible for these drones for the purpose of spying on America, and for proof of that, talked about the China spy who was recently arrested. He was arrested by federal authorities for flying a drone to collect sensitive information on our military bases, and then tried to flee back to China with his collected drone information. But federal government agents nabbed him when he was trying to board a flight in San Francisco to China. What seems that China is doing what this current administration originally said they were doing: spying on America and Americans. Because they did not like my video exposing what they may or may not be up to. So much so that they removed my video with a notice that I violated their policies. Policies that I've been unable to find. And then they made the decision yesterday that I was a threat to the Chinese Communist Party, and therefore deleted my TikTok account and banned me from their platform for life. Their words, not mine. Then over the weekend, the CEO of TikTok met at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump to persuade him to get members of Congress off his back by trying to have the platform restricted for use here in America. One would hope that Donald Trump educates himself on TikTok toxic censorship of what they've done to me and many others that have spoken up about China. We do not need China dictating our constitutional freedom of speech, nor any social media platform for that matter that is guilty of it as well, such as Facebook and YouTube, the two biggest American companies that are hell-bent on doing just that. So, if China has nothing to hide, why would you ban me for life for suggesting that maybe listening to the FBI director and knowing that a recent Chinese national was arrested for using a drone to spy on military bases? Why would you delete me from your TikTok platform? I'm pretty sure now, 99.9% confident. Hell, let me just go out there and say 100% confident that many of these drones are a product of the Communist Party of China spying on Americans and our infrastructure, our military bases, and sensitive areas throughout the nation. Some breaking news tonight. A South American national who illegally entered the U.S. landed a positive match on the terrorist watch list, leading to his arrest this evening in New York City. According to U.S. Border Patrol Chief Jason Owens, the unidentified South African national was initially detained in Texas. So my guess is he came across our border for criminal trespassing, but was released under the Biden-Harris rules. Owens said that further investigation revealed a positive match on the terrorist watch list. The positive identification of the suspect involved in terrorism led to the multi-agents effort to arrest the individual in Brooklyn, New York today. Thanks to the coordination of multiple agents, this potential threat was located, taken into custody, and is now pending removal, he said. He is just one of hundreds of people that have been arrested coming across our southern border that are on the terrorist watch list because they can't fly into America or take a cruise ship into America, and they can't teleport themselves into America. So the only other way for terrorists to get here is our wide open southern border. So what keeps me up at night is how many terrorists have come across that border that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have allowed that are waiting to make 9/11 look like nothing more than a 4th of July fireworks display. How many? According to our Border Patrol, according to the FBI, there could be up to 1,000 people that are on the terrorist watch list in America right now, waiting for the right opportunity to do damage to us. President-elect Trump on Monday indicated he plans to push back on President Biden's move to reach an agreement that will allow tens of thousands of federal workers to remain in a hybrid work arrangement with telework through 2029. We're talking about a friendly takeover, a friendly transition, as they like to say. This is a friendly transition, and it is, Trump said at a press conference. But there are two events that took place that I think are very terrible. One is that if people don't come back to work, come back into the office, they're going to be dismissed. And somebody in the Biden administration gave a 5-year waiver of that. So that for 5 years, people don't have to come back to work into the office, Trump said. It involves 49,000 federal workers. They don't have to go to work. They can sit in their nice, cushy home in their pajamas and do the work on their computer. They just signed this thing. It's ridiculous, Trump said. So it was a little gift to a union, and we're going to obviously be in a court to stop it. Trump's comments come after a deal was reached earlier this month between the largest federal workers union, the American Federation of Government Employees, and the Social Security Administration that places current levels of telework into our national agreement through October 25, 2029. The deal, which was first reported by Bloomberg, covers roughly 42,000 Social Security employees around this country. Under the agreement, requirements for work range from being in the office from 2 to 5 days per week, the outlet reported, citing people familiar with the matter, or not at all, and sitting at home doing telework. AFGE National President Everett Kelly responded to Trump's comments about the remote work deal in a statement that the union supports telework where it delivers for both the taxpayer and the workers who serve them. telework and remote work are tools that have helped the federal government increase productivity and efficiency, maintain continuing of operations, and increase disaster preparations. Rumors of widespread federal telework and remote work are simply untrue, he said. More than half of federal workers cannot telework at all because of the nature of their jobs. Only 10% of federal workers are remote. And those who have a hybrid agreement spend over 60% of working hours in the office, Kelly said. Collective bargaining agreements entered into the federal government are binding and enforceable under the law. We trust the incoming administration will abide by their obligations to honor lawful union contracts. If they fail to do so, we'll be prepared to enforce our rights, Kelly added. Trump has tasked Elon Musk with leading the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, D-O-G-E, which will focus on finding ways to cut government spending and improve the efficiency of federal initiatives. Musk has indicated that they will end remote work and view the requirement that federal workers return to the office as a way of spurring voluntary layoffs. Requiring federal employees to come to the office 5 days a week will result in a wave of voluntary terminations that we welcome. If a federal employee doesn't want to show up, American taxpayers shouldn't pay them for the COVID-era privileges of staying home, Musk wrote in the op-ed published in the Wall Street Journal. And that was the whole reason for allowing them to do the telework at home, was to stop the spread of COVID, which is, for the most part, over with. And what exists out there is no longer a death threat to you if you get it. Now, I'll concede that there is a need for some types of telework. Medical professionals come to mind. But I say not no, but hell no to government employees whose salaries we, the people, pay. You either show up for work or you get terminated. And yes, I can foresee this being drug out in court as the union for them fights to allow them to stay at home in their pajamas and basically fuck off on your dollar. ABC News host George Stephanopoulos said that Trump was found liable for rape in a civil case during a contentious interview with Representative Nancy Mace, Republican of South Carolina. Because a statement like his, many on the left who did not watch the trial and just believe anything the news media says, believe him and spread this false rumor as far as possible. Even a member of my own family spread this fake bullshit. So Congresswoman Nancy Mace sat down for an interview with George Stephanopoulos. And after playing a clip of Mace discussing being a victim of rape, George Stephanopoulos asked her, how do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw? You've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges in 2 separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape, Stephanopoulos said, alluding to a legal victory by Trump's accuser, E. Jean Carroll. Stephanopoulos repeated that claim 10 times during his spat with Mace, even though a jury determined Trump was liable for what they called sexual abuse, which has a distinct definition under New York law that does not involve rape. So let me stop for a second. I covered this trial, and I reported to you right here about this trial and how this trial was made up of a jury that had Trump derangement syndrome. It was obvious. Why was it obvious? Because how do you come to an a decision on all 12 jurors that Trump committed a sexual assault against her if, number one, there's no witnesses, his word against her word. Number two, there's no video evidence of it. It supposedly happened in a department store. No evidence that Trump ever went into that store, much less her. And number three, zero, I'll repeat, zero facts to prove that Trump ever met this woman was presented in court. It was a civil case because the actual criminal case that she brought against Trump for, yes, rape, was thrown out because she had no evidence that it ever took place. None, zero evidence at all. So then she filed a civil lawsuit for defamation and slander. So that caused Donald Trump to file a defamation lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos, an ABC This Week host. And he was initially defiant against the lawsuit when asked about it, adding he would not be cowered out of doing my job because of a threat. He went on to say, Trump is suing me because I used the word rape, even though a judge said that's fact of what happened. And that was a lie. Well, not only did the judge not say that, nor the jury, but George Stephanopoulos and ABC have agreed to settle out of court on this case that Trump brought against them for defamation and slander. And they now have agreed to pay Donald Trump $16 million, according to the settlement. So one lawsuit down against the liberal news media and their far-left liberal host. And stay tuned for many, many more to come. This past Saturday, I put out a video sharing with you that the Biden-Harris administration is selling off stockpile of border wall material that were not used during Trump's first term because after Joe Biden won, Joe and Camilla stopped the wall project on day one of taking office. This material has been sitting untouched on our southern border for 4 years now. Millions of dollars worth of material. You and me, the American taxpayers, own that material. We paid for it. The sale is for pennies on the dollar. They're basically giving it away to scrap metal companies and anyone willing to buy it very cheap to then turn around and sell it themselves for scrap and make major bank. This is criminal. This is morally wrong and will not go unpunished. So to all those involved, you're on notice that come January 20th, when Trump takes over, your ass is probably going to go to prison. So let's see a little bit about what's happening with this mess.
About Biden selling border wall materials for just pennies on the dollar. Watch this.
The administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it. And so I'm asking today Joe Biden to please stop selling the wall. We're going to use that to create a strong barrier
All right, Texas Senator Ted Cruz joins me now. Mr. Senator, this seems like deliberate stalling from Biden, delaying Trump from building the wall. Can you stop it?
Well, it is worse than that. It is absolute sabotage, and I think President Trump is right. It is very likely a criminal act, that they are deliberately misusing and wasting and stealing government assets. Let me give you an example, Stuart. Let's say you're an elected sheriff, and you get beat in the election, and you're mad that you got beat in the election, and in your sheriff's department, you've got 10 squad cars that are $50,000 apiece. And because you're mad that somebody else is going to come in and be the new sheriff, you decide to take all 10 of those squad cars and sell them for $100 each. I don't think anyone would doubt that that outgoing sheriff would be prosecuted for theft from the county. That's exactly what Joe Biden is doing. He's taking incredibly valuable assets of the federal government, and he's deliberately wasting them. He's selling massive segments of the wall for $5 a piece. And anyone involved in this decision-making, from the Secretary of Homeland Security to every bureaucrat down the command chain who signs off on this decision, you need to be on notice that when a new Department of Justice comes into office on January 20th, you may well face a criminal investigation and a criminal indictment, because you don't have the right as an outgoing administration to rob the taxpayers, and that's exactly what the Biden administration is trying to do here.
Border Patrol's warning of a new surge of migrants. Agents in the Rio Grande sector made over 1,200 arrests just over the weekend. It sounds like there's a mad dash to the border before Trump takes into office. What can you do about it, Senator?
Well, look, that's exactly right. We're seeing the arrests have been down around 400 or 600. So the number of arrests have doubled or tripled in recent days, and I think we can anticipate that happening in the lead up to January 20th. Now, here's why. On January 20th, everything changes. We will secure the border. You know, you look at the election we had in November. The results were overwhelming. President Trump, of the 7 battleground states, President Trump won all 7. You look at what the American people voted for. They voted to give Republicans the Senate, Republicans the House. We won 5 Senate seats. In my home state of Texas, I was Chuck Schumer's #1 target in the country. It was a $250 million race. I ended up winning by 9 points, by 1 million votes statewide. And I'll tell you, Stuart, what I'm most excited about. I won Hispanics in Texas statewide by 6 points. That is unprecedented. And the Rio Grande Valley, which has been bright blue for over 100 years, flipped red. That is historic. That is a generational change. And it's because Texans, like the rest of the country, we want the border secure. We're fed up with 12 million illegal immigrants invading this country under Joe Biden and the Democrats. And I'm here to tell you, Stuart, I'm going to work hand in hand with President Trump to secure the border. And it's not going to take a year. It's not going to take 6 months. We will see the border secured in January and February of next year as the new administration comes into power.
Hey, Joe Biden, you don't have the right to sell that material. And actually, you're not really selling it. You're not making any money on it. You're basically giving it away to the lowest bidder for the sole purpose of saying to hell with MAGA and Trump supporters. For 4 years, it's sat there and nobody's touched it. And now you know what's going to happen with that material. In just a few weeks, the contractors have already been lined up. They're ready to take that material and start building that wall again. So you decide it'd be funny, I guess, to make the material disappear by giving it away. I hope that Donald Trump and his FBI and his Department of Justice take all of you idiots and prosecute you. You do not have the right to touch what we, the people, paid for. It has a purpose. And you know that. And that's why you're screwing with it. Every day since the election, we find out more and more about the far left, radical, cult-like terrorists that were associated with Kamala Harris's campaign. And thank God they didn't win the election. A top aide, one of the people that had her ear during the entire campaign, has called for more cultural voices like the vocal anti-American and anti-Israel Twitch star Hassan Piker, who previously faced backlash for saying that America deserved 9/11. Harris' former deputy campaign manager, Rob Flathardly, said during a recent interview that Democrats are losing hold of culture and laid out strategically for them to develop a whole thriving system ahead of future elections. We need a whole thriving ecosystem, he said. It's not just Pod Save America, though I think we should have more of them. It's not just Hassan Piker. We should have more Hassan Pikers. It's also the cultural creator, the folks who are one rung out of influencing and nonpartisan audience. Those things all need to happen together. The reality is it's not going to be big media organizations. It's going to be a network and a constellation of individual personalities because it's how people get their information now, he added. Flattery, who previously served as the director for digital strategy for the Biden White House, is likely to face backlash for calling for more people like Hassan Pikers due to Piker's past controversial comments. Piker, who previously raised more than $1 million for Palestinian aid, has used his platform with millions of followers to downplay and justify terrorist attacks such as October 7th and 9/11 as acts of resistance in recent years. During a 2019 live stream, Piker praised the brave fucking soldier who wounded conservative U.S. Representative Dan Crenshaw, Republican Texas, while he was deployed to Afghanistan as a Navy SEAL, asking, didn't he go to war and literally lose his eye because of a brave fucking soldier fucked his eye with a dick? He went on to say that America deserved 9/11. I'm saying it before later walking it back and saying it was inappropriate. However, in another stream this year, Piker joked about 9/11 again, saying, oh my God, 9/11 too is going to be so sick and give Saudi Arabia a nuke so they can do 9/11.2. In another stream, Piker broadcast propaganda from his Houthis, an Iranian-backed group in Yemen that has been designated by the U.S. as a terrorist group. Instead of explicitly addressing the materials as questionable propaganda, the streamer instead expressed sympathy and admiration for the group. They do musicals about their fucking actions all the time, Piker said of the terrorist propaganda. They love walking over like the American flag and the Israeli flag and setting them on fire side by side. They do not care about the heavy missiles. They will literally take the war to them no matter what. For them, it's an act of resistance. You know what I mean? He added, it doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th to Israelis, Piker said in a May 22nd stream. It doesn't change the dynamics. For me, during an April 18th stream, Piker also expressed that Hamas was the lesser evil next to the Israeli military. while Senator Ed Markey, Democrat, Massachusetts, Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, Democrat, New York, and others have been on Piker's platform, his social media platforms. Representative Richie Torres of New York wrote a letter this year to top executives at Twitch and Amazon expressing alarm about the amplification of anti-Semitism on Twitch at the hands of Hassan Piker, and said Piker has emerged as the poster child for the post-October 7th outbreak of anti-Semitism in America. Outside the context of October 7th, Mr. Piker has even joked about men dating and raping women on college campuses and has posted an image of a handgun on top of the United States senator in which appeared to be an open invitation to gun violence against a sitting elected official, Torres said. Inviting one's followers to shoot an elected official, whether it be done in earnest or in jest, is the kind of threat that warrants serious attention from federal law enforcement. Piker's Twitch stream regularly hit more than 1 million views and often have as many as 30,000 views or viewers at any given time. Now, I know what you're all thinking to yourself. Who is this guy? Never heard of him before, right? So I'm going to share with you who he is. But at the same time, I'm going to direct this to not the current Department of Justice and the current FBI, because they don't care, but to the incoming Department of Justice and the incoming FBI director. The incoming Department of Justice and FBI, this guy I'm talking about should be on your radar for possible domestic terrorist or terrorism activity. And he's right here living the American dream. His name is Hassan Piker, Hassan Piker, aka Hassan Abai, ABI. He is a Turkish-American social media left-wing political commentator who has a huge following. He has 2.8 million followers on Twitch, 1.5 million followers on X, formerly Twitter, and 1.47 million followers on his YouTube channel. So at a minimum, he's reaching almost 6 million people when he puts out his propaganda videos, many of which are right here in America. As of 2024, Piker is the most subscribed political commentator on the internet and has the 19th most subscribed channel of all time on the streaming platform Twitch. And most of you have probably never heard of this guy before. Hassan Piker was born to Turkish parents in New Brunswick, New Jersey, but grew up in Istanbul and was raised as a Muslim. His father's family immigrated to Turkey from Greece. His father, Mehmet Piker, is a political scientist and economist who served on the board of directors as a vice president of Sabancı Holding, and who is the founding member of the Future Party in Turkey. His mother, Ducote Sr. Piker, is an art and architectural historian teacher right here in America at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. His uncle, Cenk Uygur, is a political commentator and co-founder of the Young Turks News Network, which I know you've all heard of. Hassan Piker returned to the United States and attended the University of Miami, then transferred to Rutgers University, where he graduated cum laude with a double major in political science and communication studies in 2013. He has been very vocal and outspoken against America and our military. He's also very anti-Israeli, anti-Israel, anti-Jew. He currently lives in West Hollywood, California, in a $2.7 million home that he purchased. So he is definitely making bank with his anti-American and anti-Israel stance. So don't take my word for it. Watch this video to get an inside look into this young man yourself. Then take appropriate action of monitoring his actions and speech. For in my personal opinion, as a former United States Army combat veteran and veteran law enforcement officer, he is inciting violence against America, and in doing so, in the wide open via his huge social media following. And if you're watching tonight's show, Hassan, and I'm sure somebody's going to share this with you, I'd be very interested in debating you, having you come on my show with your ideology. So contact me and let's do this. Explain to me and my followers why anyone should listen to your no-merit statements on America and Israel. You have an open invitation to come on my show anytime. I don't think you're evil at heart. I just think you're misguided and uninformed. So let's hear what he recently had to say that made me want to share this with you and the incoming Department of Justice and FBI. And I assure you that what you're about to listen to is pretty damn shocking. This is a guy right here in America, living the American dream.
Terrorist organization. America is the top terrorist organization, which it is, by the way. America is the top dog in terrorism, and so is Israel. It doesn't even matter. None of this justifies that Palestinians have a right to dignity, a right to emancipation, a right to live free lives, free from this occupation. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much. So that's the other part of this problem that many people can't contend with. Like, no, Hamas unironically is the lesser evil of the two. If you look at the civilian casualties, if you look at the civilian deaths versus the deaths of soldiers, Hamas's percentages are infinitely better than Israel. That's just facts.
He's the leader of Hezbollah, the general secretary of Hezbollah.
What's Hezbollah?
Hezbollah
is that small guy?
Hezbollah is this is the same name.
Okay.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization that is also a part of the Lebanese parliament.
Do we like them or no?
I think as a resistance group, they're pretty successful against Israel. But everybody hates them. Like, everybody in the region, a lot of people don't like them. Like,
I like what you like.
I don't have an issue with them, let's just say. They're Shia.
Does he know what One Piece is?
أول شيء بقول لك إنه ممكن هذا السؤال يكون شوي أهبل، بس بسألك تعرف شو هو ون بيس؟ عم بسمع بي ون بيس.
أكيد يعني منذ الطفولة وأنا أشاهد ون بيس. لوفي.
Luffy?
Yeah, he said he's been watching it since he was a kid.
No way!
Yeah.
That's sick. Yes, that's fire, and that's so fire. Oh my God, we think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that. They do musicals about like their actions all the time, and they love walking over. They love walking over like the American flag and the Israeli flag side by side. They will always like march on it. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. They do not care about the heavy missiles. Like, they will literally take the war to them no matter what. It's an act of for them, it's an act of resistance. They're streaming this? Yeah, they're flexing.
What? And they're coming in hot with guns.
Yeah, but you have to understand, this is a deterrent, right? So like, their goal is to film it and show it to the world, so like other companies that don't want to risk having this happen to their product, having this happen to their ships, literally are like, okay, we're not going to use the trade route anymore. All of a sudden, if you don't use the trade route, trade gets more expensive for the West. all of a sudden, if you can't use that trade route, the Israeli port is going to get bankrupt. I'm not Palestinian. I don't live in Gaza. I can't speak on, I guess, like the broader analysis beyond the fact that I don't feel comfortable placing the blame of a violent settler colony that has killed and displaced tens of millions of Palestinians. I don't feel like it's appropriate to lay the blame in the hands of anyone that is resisting against their own brutal occupation.
They didn't deserve it, you idiot. My goal is solutions. Your goal is the continuation of violence. You want way more than 260 people dying. You want every single Palestinian to be executed ruthlessly in the streets so that you can build another theme park in Gaza. You baying pig. You bloodthirsty, violent pig dog.
You bloodthirsty, violent pig dog. He's just a young guy who's obviously I guess he's not very grateful for being an American. He's obviously anti-America. He's anti-American military. He's anti-Israeli. He's anti-Jew. And he's reaching millions of young people that possibly will believe what he's saying and take action of their own and do harm to Americans. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he doesn't have any ill intentions towards you and me. And I hope that somewhere along the line, he gets knowledge of what's really happening over in the Middle East. And I'd be more than happy to share that with him. You have an open invitation, sir, to come on my podcast. I've been to many, many Middle Eastern countries, probably more than you have. I've even been to Palestine and Israel. And I've seen firsthand how horrible Hamas and the Houthis are. And the fact that you're right here in America supporting terrorist organizations is alarming. Moving on. The Senate voted to advance its annual $895 billion defense policy bill. I'm sure Mr. Pike won't like that. A signal that the legislation is on track to pass despite Democrats' grumblings because the transgender care provision has been removed. A vote to invoke cloture or pass an agreement to limit debate on the National Defense Authorization Act passed the Senate 83-12 yesterday. The bill now heads to a final vote later this week. Legislation passed the House last week 281 to 140, with 16 Republicans voting no. That's pretty damn interesting. I will find out who those names are and circle back to you. Only 81 Democrats voted yes, and 124 voted no. A much larger margin than in years past when the legislature typically enjoyed bipartisan support for our military. The 1,800-page bill details how $895.2 billion allotted towards defense and national security will be spent. It will be voted on more than 2 months after the start of the fiscal year. The $895.2 billion represents 1% increase over last year's budget, a smaller number than some defense hawks would have liked. A significant portion of the legislation focused on quality of life improvements for service members aimed record recruitment issues, a focus on much bipartisan discussions over the last year. That includes a 14.5% pay increase for junior enlisted troops and increased access to child care for service members while also providing job support to military spouses. The measure authorized a 4.5% across the board pay raise for all service members starting on January 1st. This agreement typically enjoys wide bipartisan support, but this year's focus on eliminating woke policies was hard for some Democrats to stomach, and obviously some Republicans too. The policy proposal to prohibit TRICARE, the military's health care provider, from covering transgender services for minor dependents of service members has raised concern, prompting the leading Democrat of the House Armed Service Committee, Representative Adam Smith of Washington, to reconsider his support for the bill. Blanketly denying health care to people who clearly need it just because a biased notion against transgender people is wrong, he said in a statement. The provision injected a level of bipartisanship not traditionally seen in defense bills. The goal of that provision is to prevent any medical intervention that could result in sterilization of minors. Other provisions, like a blanket ban on funding for gender transition surgeries for adults, did not make their way into the bill. Neither did a ban on requiring masks to prevent the spread of disease. The bill also supports deploying the National Guard to the southern border to help with illegal immigrant apprehensions and drug flow. Another provision opens the door to allowing airmen and Space Force personnel to grow facial hair. It directs the Secretary of the Air Force to brief lawmakers on the feasibility and advisability of establishing a pilot program to test out allowing beards. Democrats are also upset the bill did not include a provision expanding access to IVF for service members. Currently, military health care only covers IVF for troops whose infertility is linked to service-related illnesses or injuries. But the bill did not include an amendment to walk back a provision allowing the Pentagon to reimburse service members who have traveled out of state to get an abortion. The bill extends the hiring freeze on DEI-related roles and stops all such recruitment until an investigation of the Pentagon's DEI programs can be completed. It also bans the Defense Department from contracting with advertising companies that blacklist conservative news sources, according to an internal GOP memo. The memo said that it also guts funding for the Biden administration's countering extremist activity working groups dedicated to rooting out extremists in the military ranks. The annual defense bill also does not authorize any climate change programs and prohibits the Pentagon from issuing climate impact guidance on weapon systems. House Speaker Mike Johnson touted a $31 billion in savings in the legislation that would come from cutting inefficient programs, obsolete weapons, and bloated Pentagon bureaucracy. The compromise NDA bill, negotiated between Republicans and Democrat leadership, sets policy for the nation's largest government agency, but a separate defense bill must be passed to allocate funds for such programs. Let me add this. Anyone who supports a sex change operation for a child or anyone under the age of 18 is a very sick and disturbed individual. Not allowing sex change surgery for a child is not denying medical care. It's denying torture, you sick bastards. Anti-Trumper, former Obama advisor and CNN commentator Van Jones, you all know him, right? Said during an interview that President-elect Donald Trump was smarter than himself and all of his critics. Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all of his critics, he said. You know how I know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House, the Supreme Court, the popular vote, Jones said. Jones was asked by former CNN reporter Chris Zickley during an interview on his YouTube channel about Trump's successful presidential campaign. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor and political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him, Jones added. Jones said Trump was the most powerful person in our lifetime and argued the Democrat Party looks like idiots. We're the idiots, he said. We lost. So we have to go back in the locker room and we have to sit down and figure out how in the hell did we get beat? And when you look at it closely, it's the arrogance. It's the elitism. It's not respecting people. It's not listening to people. The ex-Obama advisor, who is also a CNN commentator, has spoken out repeatedly about the election loss for Democrats in recent weeks. And he's an anti-Trumper, or at least until now. There is a reckoning inside the Democrat Party, Jones said at the New York Times Deal Book Summit this month. Kamala Harris promised us freedom. Well, she delivered it to us because now we're free of having to run anything in Washington, D.C. That's not what we were signing up for. It's what we got. He then listed a series of high-profile figures who have been so alienated by Democrat Party politicians that they've aligned themselves with the MAGA movement. RFK was a rebel inside our party. He wanted to run against Joe Biden fair and square. The DNC wouldn't let him, so they pushed him out. They also pushed out Joe Biden. You can walk down the list. Don't forget, Elon Musk was an Andrew Yang Democrat for years. He's out, Jones said. You can walk down the list. Joe Rogan was very favorable towards Michelle Obama. He was a Bernie Sanders guy. He's out. So there's something that's happening in the party where the rebels in the party no longer feel like they have a place. And then we've got to be able to talk about that stuff honestly. Jones also ultimately placed some of the blame on Joe Biden. I love Joe Biden, he said. Joe Biden picked me out of the puppy pile and gave me a chance to work with you guys. I love him. He should have walked away and let other people in his party step up to the bat. He didn't. And because of that, we paid the price. That's Democrat, far left liberal, Trump derangement syndrome, Van Jones of CNN. I want to share with you from the Washington Examiner something that I thought was worthy. Outgoing presidents in recent decades have abused their power to pardon crimes or commute sentences. But Joe Biden is taking the abuse to a new level. Presidential pardons can be good policy if awarded to deserving recipients. However, Biden is handing out blanket pardons for entire classes of crimes. Not only does this practice significantly violate the intent of pardon power, but in practice it means that wholly deserving convicts, some of which committed crimes that shouldn't be forgiven, will have their records unjustly cleansed. On December 12th, just a few days ago, Biden pardoned 39 people, all of whom, according to reports, were nonviolent offenders who had reintegrated into their communities. At first glance, most of those pardons seem reasonable. The big problem is, with his 1,499 sentences commute, include a large number of people who have been serving home detention under a COVID-19 relief law that sent inmates away from prisons where the virus could easily spread into presumably safer home environments, so they didn't have to spend time in jail. This follows two separate rounds of pardons earlier in the administration intended for thousands each round of low-level marijuana offenses. Actually, only 257 of the intended beneficiaries actually followed through to secure their pardons. Marijuana pardons already had sent a misguided signal that mass disrespect for the law is all right, but this mass communications is even worse. In a headline piece, columnist Jim Gertley invited readers to meet the monsters released by Joe Biden. One attracted the most criticism, deservingly so, is the judge who took bribes to send children to for-profit juvenile prisons with sentences disproportionately to their crimes. And one of the children then committed suicide. How in tarnation can that man merit a pardon? Then there is the county commissioner from Ohio who made about $450,000 off of bribes, including trips to Las Vegas, prostitutes, and the infamous outdoor stone-fired pizza oven installed in his backyard in his home. But they perfectly pause compared to that of the Dixon, Illinois official who embezzled a stunning $53.7 million, the largest municipal theft in American history. That is matched by the communication of the predator of the biggest financial fraud case ever tried in Chicago. That of the investment manager who bilked investors out of more than $655 million. And the fundraiser in Nevada who victimized literally thousands of homeowners, many of them frail and elderly, and now destitute. List goes on, but you get the picture. These aren't people who committed victimless crimes or ones whose sentence were disappropriate to the offense. These are people who particularly distinguished themselves with unusually good deeds after serving time and just need their records cleansed so they can regain their right to vote and their ability to get jobs and bank loans. These people received sentences for major crimes, but were already getting a break from prison because of the pandemic that no longer exists. Now Biden is giving them, for no good reason, the added benefit of full release and a pardon. But no one gets a pardon for crimes involving drugs of a higher class than pot, or with gun-related crimes, or that committed crimes of failure to pay taxes, except his son, Hunter Biden, who's guilty of all of the above. And he gave a full pardon, not only for those crimes, but any crimes that he may have committed that we don't know about going back for an odd number, 11 years. So obviously Joe Biden knows of a bunch of shit over the past 11 years that his son was about to be found out about. Biden's mass pardons are shameful. If they look like they're being issued by a man who has completely lost his ability to distinguish between right and wrong, then sometimes looks are not deceiving. You had many places you could be tonight, many places. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I thank you very, very much. Whether you're watching me tonight on YouTube or Rumble or X or LinkedIn, please like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends and family. In the description of this show and all my shows and all my videos, you can see the other places you can follow me on social media. Follow me and I'll follow you back. That's how we continue to do this and spread knowledge and facts to the American people. Also, in the description of all of my live shows are links to where I got the stories from. For those of you that may be wondering, it's all there. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. I'll be back here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central for another live broadcast. Until then, if anything breaks between now and then, it's of importance to patriots, I'll either put out a video about it or I will come on and do a live program. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed night. And I'll see you on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. Thank you. God bless you. And have a wonderful evening, everyone.